I wasn't waiting on you. Public notice will come to order for Monday, November 8th, 2021. The first item on public hearing is TP Ordinance 2171, an ordinance to abandon the dedication of Possum Hollow Road in its entirety from the beginning of Company Road, 610 feet in length, 15.5 feet in width. This is located in District 4. Anyone here to speak on that item? The next item is TP Ordinance 2172, an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code for Tangipahoa Parish, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty for the violation therein, providing for the manner of amending such code, and providing when such code and this ordinance shall become effective. Anyone to speak on that item? Okay. The next item is TP Ordinance 2173, an ordinance to grant a variance to TP Ordinance 2019, Tangipahoa Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 17-4.1C1, setbacks for Beverly, Costanza at 18070 Brandon Court East in Hammond. This is in District 8. Anyone here to speak on that item? The next one is TP Ordinance 2174, an ordinance to grant a variance to Tangipahoa Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5, Section 5-38, location of establishments restricted for HFE LLC, doing business as Hops, Fork, and Eagle, 14256 West Club Deluxe Road in Hammond. This is in District 10. Anyone to speak on that item? Okay. Our next one is TP Ordinance 2175, an ordinance amending and enacting Chapter 20, Article 1, Section 20-14, site clearance of the Tangipahoa Parish Code of Ordinances. The next one is 2176, an ordinance amending and enacting the Tangipahoa Parish Code of Ordinances, TP Ordinance number 2149, Article 9, developments with special regulations, Section 17-9.6, renewable energy regulations regarding solar power plants. Anyone to speak on that item? And the last one is TP Ordinance 2177, an ordinance amending and enacting Section 17-4.3E, conservation developments of the Tangipahoa Parish Code of Ordinances. No one's here to speak on that. We'll close public hearing and go into our regular business meeting. If you have a cell phone, please mute it or turn it off at this time. We'll have our invocation by Mr. Wells, followed by Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Mayhew.
Mr. Forrest,
Present.
Mr. Ingraffia,
Present.
Mr. Joseph, Mr. Bruno, Mr. Richtel, Mr. Mayhew, Mr. Wells,
Here.
Mr. Vial,
Here.
Mr. Hyde, Ms. Hyde, here, Ms. Coates,
Hopefully you had a chance to look over your minutes from last meeting. If there are no corrections or questions, sorry. We just got our new microphones, so we're still getting used to them, so y'all bear with us. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to look over the minutes from October 25th. If there are no questions or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Wells. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ingraffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Richtel,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Vial, Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
Public input, anyone wishing to address an agenda item that was not heard under public hearing? Okay. Mr. Miller, will you please come and give us your report?
Good evening. We do have a few items to take care of. The first one is a proclamation for Hood Memorial Hospital. Hood Memorial is celebrating 50 years of service to Tangipahoa Parish, so we have a proclamation here, and we have Mr. Mike Whittington here, and I think we have a board member, Mr. Robbie Lee, in the hospital. If you'd like to come up so I can read this, I have to put on my glasses. I don't have it in the big form. I don't have it in big format. Tangipahoa Parish President Robbie Miller and Tangipahoa Parish Council do hereby officially recognize Hospital Service District Number 2 of Tangipahoa Parish doing business as Hood Memorial Hospital as you celebrate your 50th anniversary. On behalf of Tangipahoa Parish, we are proud to recognize Hood Memorial Hospital as you celebrate your 50th anniversary. Throughout the past 5 decades, you have had a remarkable impact on the local community through your commitment to providing premium quality healthcare services, including outpatient and diagnostic services to residents and visitors of the Tri-Parish area of Tangipahoa, St. Helena, and Washington parishes. We are truly grateful for the positive difference you have made in our parish. Congratulations and best wishes for Memorial Celebration and many more years of continued success. Now, therefore, be it known that on this 8th day of November, 2021, the Tangipahoa Parish Council President Government does hereby commend Hood Memorial Hospital and its team of dedicated medical professionals, both former and current, for its 50-year legacy of providing those they serve the highest level of affordable health care with empathy, compassion, and a hometown approach. Furthermore, we encourage area citizens to join us in reflecting upon and celebrating Hood Memorial Hospital's past, present, and future as a cornerstone of the community and primary health care resource for our citizens of Tangipahoa Parish and beyond. Witness whereof we have hereunto set our hands and caused the great seal of the parish of Tangipahoa to be affixed this 8th day of November 2021, and signed by Council Chair Bridget Hyde and myself. We congratulate you. We thank you. You guys do a great job, and we hope y'all have many, many more years of service to us. If you'd like to make a comment,
Bridget.
both or one of you.
Make a comment.
So, no, I just want to thank the council on behalf of Hood, and particularly those visionaries 50 years ago who had the foresight to establish a hospital in this community to serve the central and northern Tangipahoa Parish. We're eternally grateful for the foresight that they had, and certainly look forward to serving the community for the next 50 years. So thank you all for your support.
Are you going to be here for that?
I don't think I will be for that one, but you know, hopefully we're setting the cornerstone for the next 50.
Bridget, or anybody who wants?
Mr. Joseph would like to say something?
Yes.
and then
I
take a picture.
just want everybody to know that Hood Hospital has done a tremendous job delivering services to the citizens on this end. And I know for a fact that during Hurricane Ida, you all were stretched out to the max. Look, just like all the other hospitals in this state, but you all did a tremendous job. I was speaking with Ron Macalusa just the other day, and he was bragging on the service that you all rendered and the great financial shape that the hospital is in now. So on behalf of John and Trent, we appreciate the service as well.
Thank you so much.
You want me to take a picture? Robin, come on back up.
All right, you ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2.
Thank y'all very much. To get into some business now, second item we have is approval to seek bids for greater blades. We do that once a year, so we need to be able to go out and,
I'll make the motion. A second.
Yes, we have a motion by Mr. Forrest, second by Mr. Ridgel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno? Yes. Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Graffia?
Yes.
thank you. The next one is to approval of bids for sand, gravel, and fill dirt. There's a sheet in your packet. Daily dirt and gravel, or daily gravel was the first choice and will be, in the event that they cannot provide, then we have a second and third that are on the list, all local.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Vial, second by Mr. Graffia. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bruno? Yes. Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Graffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item is approval of bid to mill and overlay State Line Road, north end of the parish. The contract was, low bid was Barrier Construction for $940,919.83. That's actually a partnership between us and the state of Mississippi. Took us quite a while. Trent worked very hard on that, Mr. Forrest, and our Public Works folks, Andy Career. I don't know what finally got them going, but all of a sudden they were all over it. So Mississippi came up, and so we'll be doing that with them.
I'll gladly make that motion.
I'll second Trent's motion.
Have a motion by Mr. Forrest, second by Mr. Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Graffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Thank you. The next one is approval of a bid for Sisters Road Bridge replacement. Gray Construction out of Morgan City was the low bidder on that project, $1,843,282.40. That would straighten that bridge out and widen it.
Also move, actually, that Ms. Hyde and I share that bridge, and anybody who goes over it knows it's kind of narrow, you know, it really needs to be straightened out.
Did a really good job of making it crooked
Yeah.
right before you cross it, too.
Yes,
Yeah.
it did.
It's
And it
one
also
lane,
will help with all the
basically.
traffic congestion in the Punch Tool Rec Park area. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Vial, second by Mr. Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayu?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Graffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno? Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 6 is approval to accept into the parish maintenance system Springwood Way in Springwood subdivision, that's District 8. The street was found to be in acceptable condition and meets the parish standards to be accepted into it by our staff. So it's good to go.
Yeah, this is a little small. Is there pictures of it? There are no pictures, no. I didn't see any pictures, but there is.
Mr. Vial checked it out,
Yeah, I
though.
pictured it. It's a one-way in cul-de-sac subdivision, a little outside of town off of Old Covington Highway. So I also move.
I'll second David's motion.
A motion by Mr.
I got
Vial,
it.
second by Mr. Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno, Mr. Richtel,
Yes.
Mr. Mayu,
Yes.
Well, that's all the items I have. If you don't mind, I have a couple of notes. First one, if you don't mind, talk about debris a little bit. It seems to be the topic. Obviously, there's, we all are getting the phone calls. We know that there's still debris on the roads. We know that there's still, issues with where they are. They are working. Our contractor, just to give a perspective, they've picked up 2,100,000 cubic yards of debris. And if you say, that doesn't mean a lot. I mean, I don't know what that is. But if you've seen the trucks, they've picked up over 43,000 loads of those trucks. That's a little bit easier to understand. 43,000 loads of those trucks have been picked up. We know there's more to go. The original estimate was 1.5 million cubic yards. Obviously, that estimate was low. We'll probably reach 3 million cubic yards. And for low comparison, St. Charles Parish had just reached 1 million cubic yards last Friday. So we had quite a bit of tree damage that other parishes have not had. The company is working. I know that it's frustrating. They have a number that we call. If you call us, we send them the addresses. They're trying to work it in their system to make sure it isn't as disruptive to go break away and go pick up things. But they're being as responsive as possible and still keep the process in their system that they're using to keep moving to pick up the debris. They will be around a little bit longer to make sure. We are still picking up debris. The state indicated that they were stopping in about a little over a week now, I guess. Not quite a week ago, they said they were picking up for 2 weeks on state highways, but Parish is still picking up. So just keep pushing it to the road.
Rob, how long you think it'll take before they got everything back whole?
I didn't get that information, Mr. Joseph. We'll find out, but they're thinking it's still another few weeks for sure.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Buddy has a question.
I hope it doesn't get cold, because they're gonna start lighting. Yeah.
Mr. Buddy has the floor.
Probably where someone,
Mr. Buddy, turn your mic on so
Turn
the
your
public
mic
can
on,
hear
Mr.
you.
Buddy.
even though residents was told not to mix it,
Right.
where someone mixed a little lumber in with some trees, are we doing anything?
They'll have to separate it.
They'll have to separate.
Yes, sir,
Is
because
this-
they're gonna pass it up.
Okay. I'm having some more issues with state people than parish people, and I guess they have the same position.
Yes, sir. It's actually a FEMA. FEMA tracks them separately
I understand.
on reimbursement and payments, so,
Thank you.
sorry
That's
about
all right, I
that.
have a question too.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead, Mr. Beal.
Well, you mentioned, and I know we keep asking the same question, I still get, how much longer will we be picking up? People
We-
continue to ask, I know
Right.
we're saying we're gonna pick up until we get it, but
We have, as of right now, we have not made it, it hadn't even been part of our discussions internally. We still, know that there's so much more, so we're pushing. We do encourage folks to get it done,
yes.
because at some point, we're going to have to say 2 more weeks or 3, but at this point, we have not made that even approach that topic, so
Okay,
it's gonna still be a few weeks.
and we will advertise that.
And we'll make sure everybody, has
Okay.
at least a 2-week notice to get it done.
Okay, because there is some confusion, because the state put
The
out
state,
something
the
saying they're
state
gonna,
is
couple
ending it, but we're
weeks.
not, that's
Yeah,
correct.
Right, so I've got
Yes,
some calls about that also.
Yes, sir, it caused a few emails. The next item is, I know, and I'm probably taking Mr. Joseph's, but I want to make sure that we recognize that Veterans Day is coming up, and recognize all of you guys who've served, and we appreciate you and all of the veterans of Tangipahoa Parish to give us the ability to do the things we do here and serve our citizens and be free to make the choices that we make and live in the best country in the world. So thank y'all very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you, Robbie. All right, we're going to move into regular business. First, we have adoption of TP Ordinance 2171, an ordinance to abandon the dedication of Possum Hollow Road in its entirety from the beginning at Company Road, 620 feet in length, 15.5 feet in width. This is located in District 4.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by
Second.
Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vial? Yes. Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Graffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Ridgetill,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Okay, next we have adoption of TP Ordinance 2172, an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code for Tangipahoa Parish, Louisiana, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not including therein, providing for a penalty for the violation thereof, providing for the manner of amending such code, and providing when such code and this ordinance shall become effective. Mr. VL, isn't this what we had discussed pulling?
Yeah, this was about, kind of cleaning up the codes and getting the, penalties in line, I guess the way to say it. No, that's right, I believe.
What are these on?
This actually, this is what, the Municode attorney went through our ordinances
Right.
and made suggestions. Some of the items were where state law had changed and our ordinances weren't relevant. This actually should have been adopted 17 months ago, and it was not. So what we had suggested was pulling this for tonight, let's get the codes caught up, and then adopt them. So,
I think everybody's agreeable to that. I mean, I think it makes sense. We talked to, I forget the attorney's name, can't remember his name. Yeah.
Mr. Roger
Ms. Tracy
Merriman.
was in on it too, and we all kind of looked at this and said, hey, you know, we really need to go ahead and get this cleaned up to date and then adopt. Otherwise, we'd be kind of behind the eight ball with enough, some of this is still on the books, okay? So the idea is to get it all into Muni Code, let them do everything, and then we'll adopt it then. So, you want to table,
Well, if we table, it'll come back up on the next meeting. So
we'll
we
just make a motion to pull it,
Yes,
remove it from the agenda.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. VL that we pull this from the agenda for tonight.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Joseph. Roll call, please.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
Mr. Graffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno, Mr. Ridgetill,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Vial,
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
when this gets done, can we, before we, is this dealing with fines and stuff for violations?
Some of it was. I have a list of the changes that I'll get to you if you
Okay.
want to look over it.
It's a long list of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
It went through every chapter except for 17 and 20.
Because
So-
some of that changing it can change the whole outlook of the ordinance by changing just.
Yeah, I actually spoke out of line a little bit. There was two of them. There was one about fines, and then there was this one where we just wanted to table it until we got all the ordinances squared up. So it took us down the wrong path there for a minute, okay? So that's a different one.
All right. Item 9, adoption of TP Ordinance 2173, an ordinance to grant a variance to TP Ordinance 20-19, Tangipahoa Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 17-4.1C1, setbacks for Beverly Costanza at 18070 Brandon Court East. This is in District 8.
Yeah, it's in my district. It's a variance to give someone a 5-foot setback rather than 10, but it's not a house, it's a shed. So, also move.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. VL, second by Mr. Ridgetill. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
Mr. Graffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno, Mr. Ridgetill,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Vial,
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes. All right, item 10 is adoption of TP Ordinance 2174, an ordinance to grant a variance to Tangipahoa Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5, Section 5-38, location of establishments restricted for HFE LLC, doing business as Hops, Fork, and Eagle, 14256 West Club Deluxe Road in Hammond. This is in Kim's district, if someone would make that
I
motion.
will make the motion, Madam Chair.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Mr. Wells, second by Mr. VL. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
Mr. Graffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Ridgetill,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Vial,
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes. Number 11 is adoption of TP Ordinance 2175, an ordinance amending and enacting Chapter 20, Article 1, Section 20-14, site clearance of the Tangipahoa Parish Code of Ordinances.
This one was also talked at the last council meeting. It went to the developmental reg meeting, and it's really about site clearances at certain intersections. And the bottom line is, it would be based on, it'll be a complaint basis. You know, we're not, parish is not planning on running around the parish and investigating every site clearance, but it will be based on a complaint that they would react to this.
What happens if there's a person's fence or something that's inside of the?
I know we can hear you in the room, but you won't be heard at all.
What if it's somebody's fence or something that's inside of the area that needs to be cleaned? How are we gonna address that?
Well, if there's a complaint, my understanding is, and nobody's here from, okay, that it will be addressed by parish government, okay? Now, there is a site clearance ordinance on the books right now. This one just expands it a little bit, okay? So we already have one on the books, been on the books for years. So I guess it's always been on a complaint kind of basis, because I know parish government just doesn't go out and just inspect them and say, hey, you gotta take care of this. So that's what I know
We've
about
gotta
it.
be real careful, cause a lot of farmers, those hedges are their fence. That hold that fence up, so we're gonna have to be very careful with that. I'm not kidding. You can get shot over that very easily. Huh?
That's why we're gonna ask you to go
Turn
do
your
it.
mic on.
I did. That's why we're gonna ask you to go do it.
I know.
There was a good bit of discussion around that, and that's why it's kind of gonna be on a complaint basis. Yeah, that's what the conversation centered around, you know, that, and there's been one on the books for years. I didn't even realize it was on there. It's been there for years. So
Okay.
you're kinda enhancing it a little bit, but it's always been there.
Andy's gonna be in charge of going out and tell this guy he's gotta,
It'll be code enforcement, not public works.
okay. All right.
So I also move.
Motion by Mr. BL, second by Mr. Mayhew. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ingraffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Ridgestall,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Vial,
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
All right, item 12, adoption of TP Ordinance 2176, an ordinance amending and enacting Tangipahoa Parish Code of Ordinances, TP Ordinance Number 2149, Article 9, Developments with Special Regulations, Section 17-9.6, Renewable Energy Regulations regarding solar power plants.
This is also just some minor stuff to renew energy document. I think the biggest change in here is a minimum fee added of $8,500.
Yes.
Okay, there are some other small verbiage changes, but it's really not much. So I also move.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. VL. You want to second it?
Oh, I'll second.
All right, second by Mr. Ingraffia. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Ridgestall,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Vial,
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia,
Yes.
You don't get to vote twice. You only get one.
Number 13, adoption of TP Ordinance 2177, an ordinance amending and enacting Section 17-4.3E, Conservation Developments in the Tangipahoa Parish Code of Ordinances.
This is another one that was in the original planning document, and it was about conservation developments or districts, or whatever term you want to use. And after looking at this, it felt like we need to go ahead and pull this, kind of regroup on that. So it was introduced at the last meeting, and that, it would just eliminate this. You can see everything that's being marked out, but it will keep it as reserved area, so we can go back and take another look at it. Also move.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. VL, second by Mr. Bruno. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Ridgestall.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew.
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Mr. Forrest,
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Item 14 is introduction to TP Ordinance 2178, an ordinance adopting the 2022 operating budget of the Tangipahoa Parish Library Board of Control.
So move.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Wells. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ridgestall,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Next item is introduction to TP Ordinance 2179, an ordinance amending TP Ordinance 2052, 2021 budget of the Tangipahoa Parish Convention and Visitors Bureau.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Wells. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Item 16, introduction of TP Ordinance 2180, an ordinance adopting the 2022 budget of the Tangipahoa Parish Convention and Visitors Bureau.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Forrest, second by Mr. Mayhew. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Item 17, reappoint Planning Commission Board. Spit it out
Madam
again.
Chair, I'd like to appoint Mr. Chad Connerly. It should be in your packet, and he'd be taking the place of Mr. Kenny Williams.
I'll second his motion.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Forrest to appoint Mr. Chad Connerly to the Planning Commission, second by Mr. Bruno. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Okay, next is beer, wine, and liquor permits. We have one. This is for Best Stop, Harmon Enterprises LLC at 49017 Marsh Road in Hammond. Marsh Road in Hammond.
It's yours, buddy.
Mine, where's it at?
It's right on the corner of Fowler Road and Morris Road.
And so moved.
Huh?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Ridgetill, second by Mr. Mayhew. Roll call, please.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Go that way.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel? Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Okay, legal matters?
Nothing to report tonight.
All right. Councilman's privileges,
Everyone.
go ahead.
Robert touched on it already, but I just want to wish everybody in the audience and the council members a very pleasant and safe Veterans Day. There are veterans activities all over the state, but I recommend that you try to attend one that's local. We are honoring and naming the Memorial Park after the late Mayor Amit Buddy-Bell. It will be named Amit Memorial Veterans Park in honor of the late Mayor of Amit. And I'll be the keynote speaker, and VVA Veterans 1052 will be in attendance for support. Also, there's a VA program, a veterans program in Kentwood, and there's one at Oak Forest Academy. So you all take care, and when you see a veteran, thank a veteran. You're welcome.
Anyone else have? Okay, I have one. Ms. Stacy Ball lives in my district. She actually had reached out to me and asked if she could be on the agenda tonight, and it was my fault I didn't get back with her and explain the process that it has to be on the agenda. If normally we allow someone to speak for 3 minutes, if y'all wouldn't mind letting her.
Absolutely not.
Okay, go ahead, Stacy, you can come up. Just introduce yourself and give us your address, please.
My name is Stacy Ball, and my address is 22262 Floyd Levine Road in Ponchatoula. Begin?
Yeah, go ahead.
The families on our little half-mile dead-end road have always managed to keep the ambiance of our neighborhood. However, our current nemesis is a tangled mess of blight, substandard housing, illegal sewer systems, and apparently a lack of either parish ordinances to alleviate these issues or lack of parish enforcement of said ordinances. A husband and wife lived across the street from us for many years, but passed away in March and September of 2020, respectively. Immediately after their mother passed, 2 of their 5 children moved into the double-wide mobile home on the .79-acre property. The mobile home was eventually repossessed for non-payment. On September 26th, in the middle of the night, the occupants drug a dilapidated camper to the property as housing that had literally been left on the roadside for FEMA. A tarp is used as a makeshift roof, and a huge gash in the upper back wall is left exposed. The maddening sound of a generator continues to provide their electricity. They surround themselves with roadside scrap, iron, old boats. You get the idea. So after trying to talk to them, I took the next democratic steps and contacted my councilwoman, who advised me that their living conditions are illegal and that she would look into it. She contacted both code enforcement and the building official. On the same day, October 1st, I had already gone to code enforcement and filed a complaint to the permit office to clarify electrical permit eligibility and filed a complaint with environmental health. On October 19th, I received a fact-finding phone call from environmental health. Then on October 21st, received an email that stated that the complaint was verified. There was no sewer connection, but because they weren't discharging raw sewer and were in a self-contained unit, nothing more could be done. Okay? So after much thought and research, I decided to call the supervisor, quite frankly, because I wasn't satisfied. A return call explained the other ways the occupants of the camper could empty their sewer, but if I saw or smelled raw sewer, to give them a call back. Okay. Regarding other potential infractions, I was told that we can't tell people what they can have on their property. Nothing could be done because it doesn't fit the criteria for intervention. Some of these ordinances can be vague and subject to interpretation. And my personal favorite, hire an attorney to follow suit against the property owners. A property owner on Old Sawmill Road was required to tear down an old shed towards the back of the property because I'm almost done, thank you. Was required to tear down an old shed towards the back of her property because it was dangerous. She tore it down. A property owner on South Thibodeau Road was required to either clean up their property or erect a fence to hide all their junk. They built a fence. My neighbors were asked to not dump raw sewage and tidy up their property. Their response? They drug another dilapidated trailer onto the property and erected a tent. So what I'm asking you to do is do what you would want to be done if you were standing on this side of the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
So I guess the question is, where is all this? What's happening here?
No power. We didn't give them a permit to get electricity because they're running a generator. It comes back to how strict, how is the ordinance written for us to be able to take the next enforcement. And usually you don't give them electricity, that settles it.
But as far as a bunch of junk on the property.
And if we'd have known, well, we could ask them to clean it up, and they'll go by and clean up fines and so forth. At some point, they don't pay.
I think they're wrong about how much sewer can that trailer hold?
Well, I mean, they gotta dump it some kind of way.
That's what I'm saying, so they're dumping it somewhere.
Well, then that's the state environmental services needs to step up there. And if we'd have known this was on the agenda, we'd have had the guys here that have reported it, and we'd have the reports and so forth.
They're already violating how many trailers on an acre.
Well, the second one, but again, but we regulate that with electricity.
Well, Robbie, if they inhabiting it, I think you can regulate it by, you're not supposed to have more than one on a half acre. If it's 7.8 acres.
Okay, and then it turns into us being civil. It's civil in the sense of civil action, that we require them to remove it. They don't remove it, then we start fining them, then they don't pay it, then you take them to more court. And that process, I'm sure, is in play. But again, I don't have any details on this other than what I heard tonight.
And I
Just a-
apologize for that. That's my fault.
Well, I, since it's being discussed, I want to bring it up too. I've had numerous ones that have gone to code enforcement, and they start the process. We've had 2 that went to court, and they were told to clean it up, and they still haven't cleaned it up. And every time I call on them, they tell me, well, we hadn't got back out there yet. And I still say the way that we gotta do this, and I'm always told, we're waiting for this court to get passed. This court thing may never get passed. But I think what we gotta do.
We can go to it can go to the 21st JDC, and that's where we're going, that's where it will go.
I know, but once the court rules that it has to be cleaned up, we gotta enforce it. I mean, we got to go ahead and, if they're not gonna clean it up and put a lien on the property. And then they got to pay it sooner or later. The property's gonna be sold, they're gonna go to get lights, we can get our money back. But I think what we need to do at code enforcement, when they go out the first time, write them a citation right then. Give them 15 days to clean it up. If they clean it up, tear the citation up. If they don't clean it up, then take the citation further. This warning is not getting it. If people are gonna be nasty, they're gonna be nasty. They're not gonna clean it up. And there's no teeth, and I've talked to Nick about this. Write them a ticket, tell them you clean it up in 10 days, we'll tear the ticket up. If you don't clean it up, the ticket's gonna go to the next level. But, some people do it. Some of them that they go to, they clean it up in a couple of days.
Actually, the citation method is what we do. We do write the citation. If they do clean it up, or they get the citation is it's gotta be a certified letter. It's not, citations, certified letters, if you can't find them, the process gets followed. The law that is passed gets followed. We write the citations. In most cases, they clean it up and they pay it. In some cases, it gets waived. If it goes to court and the judge rules on it, it's actually out of our hands. I believe it goes to the sheriff after that, and it's enforcement there. I'm not 100% on that though. But the idea is that we pursue it. Our ordinances could be tougher and make it a whole lot easier.
Well, we can do that. That's something I'm sitting here thinking about. We could address that, look at it. And the certified letter is the thing, Mr. Bruno. I have one in the hopper right now. It's been sent a certified letter. I think you get 30 days. I can't remember exactly what it is.
It depends on what the actual violation is, whether
Right.
it's a certified letter or a citation right off the bat.
Well, I've got 2 that went through 21st Judicial. We've won them both, and neither one's been cleaned, and one of them's been 3 years. No action's been taken. And the other one has been over a year, and no action's been taken. So we need to find out. I thought that once it went through the court, it comes back to the parish goes and cleans it up and puts a lien on the property. And then they can't do anything with that property until they pay those liens, and then they can get electricity. Because it's not getting done. If the court rules on it, or if I'm wrong, and it's gotta go to the sheriff's department, then we need to get with the sheriff's department and get it done.
I've got one in my district that we've been fighting code enforcement for 4 years. And they'll write him a citation, he'll move stuff around, they go back, stuff's moved around, you probably know which one I'm talking about.
It's cleaned up, and they
It's
clean up a little bit,
god-awful.
and
But we trying to bring him to the court, which he wound up at the DA's office, I guess, where to wind up, until we get this court system set up. If we can get that
Well,
set
actually,
up, maybe we can do something.
the 21st is where got the most power.
Right.
Mr. Cascio,
What do we
you have
need
anything to say
What
about this?
authority do we need to create here to fix this, because it's bad?
So, a lot of it's gonna depend on the language in the ordinance. I have to take a look at it. In other jurisdictions that I've represented, we've taken people in violation. Let's say they didn't have the proper permits and they're on the property. We file a suit, we tell them you have to do X, Y, and Z, and you have so many days to do so. When they don't do it, you bring it back in for a rule for contempt. And there was actually a piece of property that the sheriff's office went out and, I'm gonna say seized, but they padlocked it. And they said you're not allowed to be in here and to operate in this.
Sorry, who'd you say did that?
The sheriff's office.
Thank you.
Padlocked it based on a court order and said you're not allowed to be in here until you fix the problems.
I got a guy burying cars, blowing them up, then burying them, digging holes, burying them. It's crazy. DEQ.
But so that's a DEQ issue.
They've all
for
been
sure,
over there.
burying vehicles.
And nothing's been done. It's just a major eyesore in my district.
Mr. Joseph?
David, when y'all look at strengthening that ordinance, why don't you look at whatever you can to ban them from purchasing a generator? Because when you do that, they're circumventing the ordinance itself. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to look at it, but, I mean, in my opinion, we ought to look at it, but we really need some guidance on how we can make it stronger and stiffer. But again, I'm hearing it's gonna wind up in 21st Judicial, and then it'll become a sheriff's office issue. Is that correct? Or would it be our code enforcement based on
So
21st Judicial?
typically, the way the procedure would work is code enforcement would go out and try to resolve the situation on their own.
Yes.
If the situation can then not be resolved, then the parish can bring a suit against the property owner. And if that's successful, you get a judgment ordering the parish, ordering the property owner to do X, Y, and Z within so many days. If they fail to do so, you can bring it back in for a rule for contempt, and the judge, it's up to the judge at that point to, charge them a fine, attorney's fees, et cetera. And then at some point, if you ask the judge in the 21st could order the sheriff's office to take further action such as padlocking the property. If the ordinance allows for that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know all of that, but I can tell you, and Buddy probably can tell you too, we've done it in the past. We've cleaned up a property, we've liened the property was liened. Sooner or later, that property's gonna come to get a light permit or a building permit, and you get every penny of your money because they can't do anything with the land. And I think once the judge rules, I don't think the sheriff's department can do cleanup.
No, but they have to get them out. We're not gonna go haul a trailer off with people in it or clean it up with people in it.
Robbie, if the court says to haul it off, you haul it off.
But I can't, but somebody's gotta come make the people leave, and we're not the authority to do that.
I understand that, but the day that we go to tear it down, the sheriff's department shows up there and they do that. But I mean, if you go see these
But you have
two
to have a judge
locations-
say that you have to do that. It's not just because we want it to be that way. The judge, it has to go through the process, and the judge has to go along with it.
Well,
And evict them.
both of these have been through the whole process. One of them, Cliff Speed handled, I don't know, you might have handled the last one. The one, the lady, they had 3 trailers on the property.
There's a pond in the front and they're throwing animals in it.
No, that's the original one.
I've heard about that.
There's feet sticking up in the property where they burying them halfway and the feet are sticking up like this. And there's neighbors across the road watching this. And then the goats go across the road and eat the people's flowers and all of that. This has been going on for 3 years. There's 3 little bitty trailers in there and they all have electricity. Okay, and there's a sewer pond. The pond you're talking about in the front is where all the sewer goes, and the animals are drinking out of it.
If they've already got electricity, one way you might be able to do it through code enforcement is to revoke their permit, cut the power off.
And
Well,
then,
that's a different discussion.
and then the other one went through the court system. It's 3 abandoned trailers. They started tearing it down, and instead of hauling it off, they just threw all that on the ground, and now it's all just scrap everywhere.
It sounds like there's quite a bit of interest here, so there's probably something we ought to think about. I mean, the administration's interested also. I just think, listening to everybody talking, I think it's just time maybe to powwow on this again and see if we can figure out what we can do with the ordinances or whatever it takes. I don't know the answer here.
And one of the other things, and we've talked about it, no living in a camper trailer. Those things are not made to be a permanent house. Those things are made to go camping on the weekend. But these people are pulling them on a property and they renting them for $300 and $400 a month for people to live in. They're not hurricane safe, they're not strapped down, they don't have sewer systems. And, I mean, it's a problem. And that's not the parish's, the administration, it's a problem for us. They pull one in the backyard and plug it into the house and they rent it. So I don't know what the answer is, but it's probably one of the bigger problems that the regulation committee needs to be handling right now compared with all this other stuff that's going on.
I
'Cause
asked
it's a
Jill
problem.
to add it to the agenda for our next meeting, so we'll, all right.
Okay.
Any other councilman's privileges? If not, Mr. Wells, I will entertain your motion.
Madam Chairman, On behalf of Mr. Joseph and all the veterans on the council and all other veterans, we're asking everybody to support a veteran.
Thank you.
Chairman, Madam Chairman, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Yeah, see that one you talking